Hey guys, welcome back to T-Bone Tech. Recently, I was on Amazon and I saw that the used prices for a Canon 6D were around $700. So, I decided might as well pick one up and see how it compares to a $700 brand new APS-C camera, the Canon T7i. Almost every professional photographer uses a full frame camera, and there's a reason for that. One of them being 35mm sensors give absolutely beautifully looking blurred backgrounds, lower noise when using higher ISOs, and much better dynamic range. And of course, with a 35mm sensor, we're not going to have to deal with any crop factors. And that means that Canon's L lenses are perfectly designed to work with full frame cameras. Where with a APS-C camera, we're going to have a 1.6 times crop factor, so we're going to be zooming into the lens and not utilizing the entire lens. And that being said, a brand new full frame camera is always going to be a lot better than a brand new APS-C camera. And usually there's about a $1,400 price difference between a full frame camera and a APS-C camera. And what I think is going to be really interesting about today's video is because the 6D is older than the T7i, they're going to have the exact same price. And today we are going to be finding out if it's worth it to buy a used Canon 6D. The Canon 6D was originally released all the way back in 2012, and the T7i is Canon's newest Rebel DSLR, and it was released in 2017. So there's actually 5 years between both these two cameras. The first part of this video is going to comparing the actual physical differences between both these cameras. And then in the second part of this video, we're going to take a deep dive into image quality of both these two cameras, and we're going to do side-by-side comparisons. As far as weight and size goes, the Canon 6D is a very big and heavy camera. It weighs around 1,400 grams, and it actually fits my hand very well. The grip is very deep and very thick, and the camera just feels very good to handle. The T7i weighs around half of what the Canon 6D weighs, coming in at around 700 grams. Sometimes this camera body is nice because it is so lightweight, but sometimes it's not so nice. So if you have a heavy lens on the end of your Canon T7i, you're going to have a lot of the weight in a very uncomfortable spot, and that can put a lot of strain here on your wrist. Where if you have a heavier camera like the Canon 6D with a heavier and longer lens, it's going to feel a lot more balanced in the hand. The heavy body is actually going to kind of work as a counterbalance, and it's actually going to help reduce strain here on the wrist. Because the 6D is bigger than the T7i, we're going to have much better battery life on the 6D. Its battery will give you about 1,100 shots on a single battery, and the T7i is going to give you around 600. The 6D has some more pro features that the T7i doesn't, like a top display. A top display is really nice because when you're shooting and you have your camera down a little bit low, you can easily just glance and take a look at your settings, and you can actually adjust them, and you can see the camera adjusting your settings in live time just by looking at the top dial. Most pros really prefer to have a nice top deck display just like this. The 6D has a very old and outdated LCD panel, and the quality on it really isn't that good at all, and it is also not a touchscreen. But the T7i has an absolutely fantastic flip out tilt screen, and it also is a touchscreen. So you can easily pinch to zoom to check your key focus, you can swipe through different pictures, and you can also navigate the menu just by using the touchscreen. For the longest time, Canon believed that pros didn't want touchscreens. Well, we definitely do. And because of that, the 6D does not have a touchscreen, but the T7i does. And the colors and the actual image quality of the T7i's display is just far superior to the Canon 6D's. And honestly, this really does make a big difference in my productivity and my workflow when I have to really zoom in to check image quality, and then I also have to kind of put my hand on the screen and kind of shield it from the sun because the resolution isn't that good. It really just kind of gets in the way of my productivity. The Canon 6D has 9 autofocusing points, and the T7i has about 45 different autofocusing points. So the autofocusing system is definitely a lot better on the T7i. The Canon 6D has a 20 megapixel full frame sensor, and the T7i has a 24 megapixel APS-C size sensor. When looking down the mirror of the Canon 6D, the viewfinder is going to be absolutely huge, and that's because it does have a bigger viewfinder than the Canon T7i, which has a much smaller viewfinder. Having a bigger viewfinder is going to really allow you to see a much bigger picture. If the viewfinder on the T7i is about this big, the viewfinder on the full frame 6D is going to be about this big. It actually makes a big difference and is going to allow you to manually focus better while looking down the lens than you you can on a T7i. The Canon 6D has an aperture wheel, and that makes changing the aperture an absolute breeze. You just can use your thumb just like this, and you can simply make the aperture faster or slower. On the T7i, it's not going to be quite that simple. You're going to have to hold down this AV button, and then you're going to have to move the shutter speed dial to change your aperture. During a professional shoot, I absolutely just love to have a dedicated aperture wheel. The Canon 6D has a dedicated manual video mode and can shoot 1080p at 30 frames a second, and the T7i has a dedicated video mode and can shoot 1080p at 60 frames a second. And that makes the T7i so much more usable for shooting video than the Canon 6D. And the other huge difference between both these cameras is the Canon T7i has Canon's dual pixel AF, which is an absolutely fantastic autofocusing system during video. So the Canon T7i can autofocus during video, and it has face detection, and it's just absolutely fantastic system. And unfortunately, the Canon 6D really can't even autofocus during video at all. If you're planning on buying these cameras for video, you have to pick up the T7i. The 6D shouldn't even be an option for you. The Canon T7i has a built-in flash, which you should never use. Onboard flashes just look absolutely terrible. I am definitely not a big flash photography person at all, but the T7i does have a built-in flash, and the Canon 6D unfortunately does not. Where the flash would normally go on the Canon 6D is actually going to be a GPS. And that's actually really amazing. That means that you can geotag all your pictures straight from the physical body of the Canon 6D. And that's really a cool feature to have, and the T7i kind of has that, but you gotta connect it to a smartphone with Canon's Camera Connect app, and it makes it more complicated, and it's just not the same as having it just built in to your DSLR. Both these cameras have 3.5mm inputs for a external microphone, and they also have HDMI and USB as far as connectivity goes. And both these cameras also have, and this is very important to me, they both have their SD card slots here on the sides of the camera, which means that if your cameras are on a tripod, you can easily remove the SD card without having to first take your camera off the tripod, and that's just really annoying and is found on usually cheaper DSLRs. I think this video really demonstrates how far Canon has come with their APS-C cameras in the past 5 years. This camera stacks up very well against the full-frame Canon 6D, which cost around $2,000 when it was first released. I think for anybody starting out, you really have to pick up the T7i. It's very user-friendly and just overall an absolutely fantastic camera. But if you're thinking about becoming, or you already are, a professional photographer, you just really can't beat the look of a 35mm sensor. And it's also really nice to be able to put EF lenses on a full frame camera and not have to worry about any crop factors or anything like that. Alright, so here are some sample pictures that were taken with both these two cameras. Unfortunately, I didn't have as much time to take side-by-side pictures as I'd like to, and I have to get this video up by Wednesday, like always. So that being said, the picture on the left was shot with the Canon T7i, and the picture on the right was shot with the Canon 6D. And the focus point was actually this little metal piece right here on both these pictures. I zoomed in and manually focused again both these pictures, so I made sure that I had tack sharp focus right here on the metal of the sunglasses. These pictures were shot in my studio with studio lighting, so the lighting's not going to change at all. And here we can see the Canon 6D is more sharper. There's more detail here in the exact focus point on the Canon 6D, but like I said earlier, the Canon 6D is going to offer much smoother and much creamier backgrounds, and because of that, if we move down the pair of sunglasses, we can actually see that it's softer here and the Canon T7i is sharper. And that's not because of the sensor, that's actually because full frame cameras give us better looking backgrounds, and more is going to be in focus on an APS-C camera, and less is going to be in focus on a full frame camera. But if we do take a look at where this picture is in focus on both these cameras, we can see the 6D is definitely a little bit sharper than the T7i, but the T7i is basically right there. It's also very, very, very sharp. And now it's time to take a look at my low light testing of both these cameras. Again, the picture on the left was shot with the T7i, and the picture on the right was shot with the Canon 6D. So both these pictures were shot at f/22, which was the slowest aperture available on the lens that I was shooting with. And both these pictures were shot at ISO 12,800. So we're going to zoom into the picture here, and here we can see the T7i is so much more noisy than the Canon 6D is. The Canon 6D is extremely smooth and very free of noise. The overall quality of this 6D in low light absolutely blows away the quality of the T7i. APS-C cameras are very noisy when shooting at high ISOs, and here we can clearly see that the Canon 6D is just so much more sharper and so much more clear and free of noise than the T7i is. So when it comes to actual picture quality, the 6D is the clear winner. Full frame cameras are just overall better than APS-C cameras, even if it's 5 years older when it comes to image quality. That being said, the T7i is still an absolutely fantastic camera and is going to also give you that great ability to take good video, where this old 6D unfortunately doesn't have ability to take very good video. But that's all we got for you guys in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this comparison of both these cameras. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below. I will try to answer all the questions that I get. If you guys want to pick up these cameras on Amazon, I will leave a link in the description down below to a used Canon 6D or a brand new Canon T7i. But again, that's all we have for you guys in this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.